Hello and welcome. And fuck the system. Pardon me. Pardon me. I know how childish or immature of me to wear this shirt while trying to present technical information to the world. Pardon my formality. Okay, so I was looking around at this. I was looking at this, and I posted on Twitter, even Twitter. Image of it coupled with this image, which I thought was pretty fitting. It even has this little thing here. And if we go to here, it's kind of got like a sharp corner. Makes me think that maybe there's, in this bend, like this way, like maybe there's also an aspect of it having that kind of bend there. And then over here, that little like baby one. So I was looking around, and I decided to hit record because of some things. Here's another location where it's got that little like cross. So if we just look around, like wherever the currents are colliding, like here, coming in this way, opposite, colliding, creating that cross structure with an arc to it. Like it's not just a cross, it's got a bend. So if we look at this one particularly, the bend to it, maybe something like there, or there. But then it has outer segments that like go parallel over here that are not parallel to this though. This is more so in line with this, but it's increasingly getting upward. I notice also even within it right here is one, and really is very swastika-like. It's got this with this. It's got this with this. It's got this with this. And this with this. I mean, it just shows the symbol has a meaning in current flows that's relevant. Essentially, it's swirling in, and if we look here, this current seemingly wraps around here. Like it continues, but it also wraps around. And then I guess down here, there's like a little current to deflect this current around, so it wraps around, comes this way generally speaking, and essentially some of it goes up and around and creates like a little stopper here so that the current then is more so forced this way, which then swirls in like maybe along this way to in here, as well as up this way, getting bent by the current that way, getting bent by the current this way, getting bent by the current, or maybe not bent in this case, but like if it's going up. Listen, it might be going down actually. It might just be going across and then like down, creating a swirl there and a larger swirl there and a crossing current there. Something of that nature, as well as just a current around it. So there's interesting things. I came across this. Today I was watching several videos on that was talking about, from Anton Petrov and others, talking about supernovas at the end Devonian relating to the extinction, or a supernova trigger as a potential where like ozone depletion occurred. UV-B radiation, which I believe is connected to the ozone depletion. And burning of fossils that are burned by the UVB. Let me see the full extent. Let's quickly go through these, because notably, this is an this impact has been proposed as a cause of the first Devonian extinction, the Siljan Ring, which is similar to like this one over here, where it's got this structure, but it's got like more to it going on. But it's not here, it's all the way over here, where it's got the structure, but it's got this offshoot this way. It's got this offshoot this way that goes kind of like there. So it's part of a larger system of things going on here. Notably, it's like at this snake's eyeball, perhaps. I was thinking maybe this was an eyeball, but maybe this also is perceivably an eyeball, and this is maybe more so nostrils, like a second eye over there in a way, like a fangs here. Majority of life affected was oceanic. So mind you, my interpretation of this evidence of supernova tied to late Devonian extinction, my interpretation is that the Earth itself basically supernovaed when it expanded to a new radius from around 550 million years to around present. So all of the extinction events are, in my interpretation, likely to be effectively like steps in the supernova building up to the rapid phase of supernova, which was at 65 million years at the KPG boundary, as it's more presently known. And I've closely tied that to a supernova process in the Pacific. So my thought is that like these other extinctions are other less like maybe just because of how they're not as recent, they're more covered up in evidence kind of thing. Not necessarily less energetic, although the 65 million is when the crust fractured apart and the Earth actually expanded. And until then, it was just kind of explosions within the Earth that were in ways interacting, but this is my thoughts, that were basically miniature supernovas. Like the supernova at the KT boundary was really related to the Galapagos hotspot and the Hawaiian sphere, that came out from under Australia and went over this way and sat against South America in the current flows. And then it supernovaed, possibly the Galapagos hotspot itself and not the Hawaiian sphere. Maybe the Hawaiian sphere is more like the Blake River system that I talked about recently, the Blake River super volcano caldera, mega caldera, which is notably, the reason I say that is because it's right here in this region. And I was talking about recently when I brought that up in the last episode about the potential of it like being related to over here. But I noticed right here, if you look closely, there's a flow going generally this way that has a boundary that, if we look over here, is kind of like this. And then it goes this way as well. So it's basically a shallogram. It even has 3 little notches there. And then over here, it goes this way, but notably it goes up and over, and generally over like that. and then that way, where it has this like step in the structure, one like smooth loop, and then over here. So there's this structure that's centered on this that has these two lobes, that directly above it is the Blake River mega caldera, where all of these precious metals and things are found in high quantities. And I'm not aware of anything here. I was thinking, I wonder if this is exactly where the Sudbury Basin and Temagami magnetic anomaly. This is what we need. And its positions. Where is it? I guess we'll just do that. Right there. Let's see if we can find this based on this. There's that center. One sec. So right around here is the this is, I guess, frozen chunks. Is the Temagami magnetic anomaly, and then the Sudbury Basin impact is leading up to this lake. This lake over here. So there's this impact basin, and then a magnetic anomaly, and then the center of this system that's pointing in terms of like a pole. Like if pointing up this way to here, also having like a splitting, is to me suggestive of a flow this way. Interestingly shaped with these little carvings where like an eddy formed over and over, it seems, as it etched forward. If it went this way. So there's that going on. Let's pull up some shalograms that maybe are similar in nature. Like this one, for instance, where it's got the singular thing going out. Actually, I guess they're both kind of singular. I was thinking I might be able to find one that has a smooth circle and then like a secondary thing going on. Let's see. Kind of how these are, but this side has them as well. It's hard to say. This one has 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, really. So it's like one less. but not identical to that one. Let's see if we can find one that actually did that, like this. One, like a smooth one, basically. And then one that goes out and then goes larger out to some boundary that's equivalent to like their opposite to it. But this is just so smooth, it just kind of goes in further. But notably, like this has chakras, so does this. Like there's a chakra here. If this circle is like a boundary, there's literally this region that has a chakra right here. And then over here is a chakra structure that even has like a down, over, relatively. Although, like it also goes that way. The side's more subtle. But then there's, notably here, like going up that way, and then center of that is Lake Superior. So it's possible some energetic focal point that was like an eye of the storm low ended up like having water physically cycle in a way that, or something cycle in a way, maybe not water, because this may be related to like when the Earth supernova totally, where it was more magmatic, when so many complicated details. Because this is around 2.7 billion years, so this is probably related, like this formed in the process of the Earth being in a state where it's much more like Venus and becoming much more like Mercury and becoming much more like Venus, and then later on becoming like Earth before it expanded. I believe the expansion, like the first supernova was around 2.7 to like 1.7, or maybe even like 1.1, or even closer, I'm not sure, like 1.1 possibly. I don't think like 800 though, 800 million starts to run into the time when the Venus became more like Earth, I believe. Okay, so this is, in my interpretation, showing remnants of the process where it was like fracturing this apart, but it just didn't completely, and created the like mid-continent rift. When was that? Formation date, age 1.1. Yeah, so at least going to 1.1. So around 2.7, like maybe the eddies start to swirl and current starts to like focus this way, and then this eruption occurs of the super volcano. But like that just relieves some pressure. This keeps going underneath the crust, and then it grows to a larger point where it starts to actually etch out the crust and like open a hole in the crust. So if we go back to shallograms, opening a hole in the crust. There's some good ones where they physically are opening, like this kind of does it, but something that like demonstrates it like squeezed between what was there and pushed it open more so. Like this. Like it physically is like folded open, and material is put in bit to like hold it open. Like it's highly possible something of this nature was happening, but whereas producing the divide at Lake Superior, this also like separated it. While maintaining like a structure here for some reason. I'm not completely sure why I wouldn't have structure here. I don't it's hard to find technical information geologically about like certain locations in Canada. This is very difficult for me to research without, I mean, maybe there's some good maps of Canadian lakes that I can, like, to even look at this region is difficult. That's interesting. I wonder if this has this thing going out like around it, and that's kind of like the center. I meant to mention when it occurred to me, I was talking about, frequently I've talked about this concept of like a current flowing and then it reaching a place where it just hits so much resistance that it can't just keep going. So it just instead builds in that location. And as it builds, it physically etches into the location to like produce a boundary like this rather than like this. And then doing it again and like chaining them and then growing into like a more complete unit like this. Very, very present in that shallogram. I was like this one right here. That looks very much like a circle and like a circle and like a circle and like a circle and a circle, like little punches, hole punches of actual like perfect circles that overlap. And so the result is like, and growing larger, larger, or small, larger, 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 small, larger, larger, possibly even like producing something around it for some reason here. Also looks like it's bending because of possibly whatever's going on around it, like the current flowed out more like that. In terms of as it reached over here, it just ran into resistance and caused some kind of upward projection over here. It's things of that nature that like prove these are caused by currents and not caused by fossilization of shells. Like this one. Like it's a smooth boundary between the two. And then within it, it has a nucleus thing at the chakras. I'm not sure. Maybe we can find some reason there might be like a mass here and a magnetic thing here, and then the chakras like pointed there. I don't know. I have no idea why it would be so limited to like right there and then like right here, maybe like two steps along the structure's shape. I don't know if I've ever seen any shallograms doing anything like that. possibly something of this nature, but I don't know if there's similar features. Notably, shalograms do have the tendency to have these etchings that follow the contours of the rock a little too much, meaning like they're related to the contours of the rock. Like here, this is just incredible. As it gets to the boundary, it changes, and as it wraps around, it changes. This is not done by someone like wanting to make the rock look prettier. Like, this is the literal currents atop the surface of the rock etching it. Like, there's a mound here, and then the current goes literally around it, atop it, but around it also. Looks like it actually maybe goes like this. Current going in the rock around and like reaching a point of pressure from above where it balances and things just like accrete layers while more material makes its way up until it stabilizes. The chakra is just like pointing at this axis. Rather than this one. Although, interestingly, this axis has this thing going on. Some of these are just incredible and mind-blowing. Like, what? Notice the little shape there, where it's got that indentation. Let's see, is that what... I was just thinking, is that similar to this? It's not quite the same, but kinda. Maybe this portion got kinda etched out because of this current flowing in, and it was more like that. Like this here was actually part of a larger structure. Which kind of makes sense given where this went in. Like, it likes to pick corners. If we look around, like this one here, it's like right at a corner. This one here, right at a corner. Into a corner, although not sure if into matters as much as out of. So, like, leaving Lake Superior, going this way, it doesn't go through a corner. It goes through the middle of this stretch, but then there's this. And this arc here, I would suggest it really does point to that this was continuous. I'd be very curious to look into details of this area. It also looks like just based on this, like the current coming generally across here is being like fed down that way, but it's also like going across and running into this here, so it goes across and then down more so. So it's almost like it's pushing this boundary in, etching in like across that way into here repeatedly, like going in and then hitting a wall where it then etches to the side, but then gets past there, etches to the side and to the side, to this side. Maybe it comes in, etches this way and this way, then gets through it, like stretch without having to go to the side as much, and so it then gets further, but it hits resistance here before this is etched, and goes sideways, makes an eddy, goes sideways, makes an eddy, and is etching this region, and then in again, and I guess swirls through that way. Ultimately, instead of etching out this way, I'm not sure why it wouldn't have connected, or even show any sign of like relatively trying to connect, if you will. Maybe it's just somewhat easy for it to do that, to connect back here. But then the current's coming in this way to this corner and not getting through the corner. It's just not able to get through completely, so it starts to create fans out this way, which is eddy in this corner somewhat. That is weird. That's just weird looking. Is that a wave? Or is that like, I don't know what's going on. And then maybe as it goes like that, it also does the same thing where it goes to both sides and starts to etch here, but it similarly like follows a path that left this chunk there. So these two chunks got left behind and not etched out, as well as that one. And I guess one a little bit there. Then the current goes through, though, and goes and makes its way through, so that that corner was a corner. Long story short, that corner was a corner. And this thing was etched in proximity to it. Just thinking from a shallogram formation process to do something like this. Like, it wouldn't have had like a Lake Superior next to it, I don't think. Kind of equivalent. Etching its boundary. Is there a shape out here? It looks like it this way, but it doesn't this way. It would have to be more so here, going across, down. I don't think so. This side looks like possibly, but this center is in this line. Going back to this point. This region even. You can just tell a current came in with a high amount of pressure and nowhere to go and etched into this region, but then it just kept etching until it, like, the pressure went into other regions over here instead of progressing over here. And then it just kind of reached a point where it could swirl more so and just build up a back pressure so that it didn't come this way anymore as much, and more so was encouraged this way. like maybe in order to even get through all this, it like required enough back pressure in certain regions, like that kind of mechanism going on, where there's some kind of just back pressure pushing waters in places that literally required enough of a body to go that way instead of just going this way. And then at some point it went this way enough where then the optimal path was to go this way through here and started to etch this way. I don't know if there's a formation sequence like Lake Superior. I think this is Lake Huron. And then this Lake Michigan. I might have those Lake Erie after that. And then finally Lake Ontario. Like if there's an actual sequence known. What order did the Great Lakes form in? That's just directionally. They're just considered to have formed simultaneous, I guess. I guess so. Just consider. No one's. Maybe in a technical paper I could find some detail like that. Superior, Michigan, Erie, Ontario. Where's Huron? Oh. 750, I guess. Lake St. Clair, Niagara River. Sorry guys, I know a lot of times I don't click things that I should be clicking. What is this? 601 feet. That's not its width. I don't know what these numbers are. These ones, maybe it's like a secondary depth. I don't know. Or maybe it's, oh yeah, it's probably going like that. Okay. I see 601 for St. Mary's River, I guess. That's pretty deep. Wow. If that's a river, 600 feet deep. Maybe like its deepest. I don't know if that's that river, but like this is very reminiscent to me of the Western Pacific in the magnetic anomaly map, where there's this thing going on. Maybe even with the Sudbury Basin and Temagami magnetic anomaly equivalence. Just as equivalence. With this structure that then has this like point going up, where then along that axis is the Blake River magnetic or supervolcano mega caldera, possibly at like a divide where it goes sideways more so. Like it branches off and goes to other paths, like right there, where it's got like a more exact, like to the side kind of thing going on. These are more angled as they approach it. So some kind of equivalent like that, and then up here, something maybe, like as we approach up here, we've got this thing that I've been considering to be like closely tied to the Canadian Shield kind of thing. Somewhere when the Earth expanded the first time, where it did so by creating an ocean equivalent in the Canadian Shield. This Western Pacific Ocean equivalent, just because the process followed a similar like sequence where it ultimately resulted in some place of just all of the energy just like ballooning from there and spreading and expanding the planet to a larger radius and creating at that time the Canadian Shield as like the Western Pacific equivalent. So having like that kind of thing, and then this like really towards the Hudson Bay, possibly where the Mariana Trench equivalent was actually positioned more like down here. I don't know why. Like in line with it, because it like fully supernovaed. The Earth more so like it didn't supernova in a way where like the whole surface was coated in magma. At this time, it did. When this happened, the Canadian Shield exploded, if you will. It in the first expansion of the Earth, it created basically a full-blown magma. It wasn't really water-based, is what I'm getting at. Where in this instance of the Earth's expansion from 55 million to near present, there was a lot more water involved. And it didn't like coat the entire Earth with a igneous province or like a layers of dense concreted material. I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, don't get all, I knew that. I knew that. That's not what I meant. God damn. People so hating, so ready to hate. Maybe though, if we go off of this, go up this way. Like, let's draw that line. Let's just draw that line from here to the center here. Maybe through that even. Because that's pretty good center to this circle directly through there. But then across here is this thing and this thing. When was this impact? This was while the more recent Earth expansion process was occurring, I believe. What is this called again? Lake Manakaugan. Okay. So it was perhaps formed or perhaps etched. Shock metamorphism, shatter cones. that are dated presumably to that time frame. So that kind of suggests the structure as a whole formed at that time frame. This here, and wasn't really closely tied to the initial Earth expansion process, but it was tied more so to the subsequent. But I'm still thinking maybe it's possible if there is a similar thing going on where there's like this going up and then going across and then bending at some point and going up. So maybe we can look for something similar to this too. But where this is happening, then maybe like when currents flow later, this location ends up being really optimal to create something like this atop it, like really driving the currents to flow in certain ways as a result of the preconditions of being more something like this. Just a thought. One, two, three, four, five, six kind of thing. It's not the worst thing to be comparing it to. It's up this way. It's before there, to the side. Up this way, to the side. Two, let's see, a width maybe in line if we just go kind of like this. Especially parallel to this one. And this is along that stretch too, almost like it added turbulence maybe. And then let's see, is there some kind of flame here? There really is, like Florida. Florida was there. Whoa. Okay, we get in the flat Earth model now. Okay, parts of the Earth are just right opposite. That would be crazy if it actually was like that, but that's not what I think. But although maybe it's like different times. I don't. So many possibilities. This essentially right here was Florida. And then that structure was happening where this current's flowing this way and then fanning out, running into the current that's creating the Mariana Trench and flowing in, as well as going atop, fanning out, opening this pocket inside of it where there's a bunch of nova centers. And then right there is that structure. So maybe like here it's fanning out like that way and that way. Here is the Nova Centers region. Down here is where this like thing's going on. Just the same process mimicked. Not identical, but so similar as to have many of the same features. Don't know what would why there wouldn't be a distinct Mariana Trench equivalent. Possibly. Just thinking maybe it's like slightly. I believe in you, computer. Just thinking maybe it's present in the. Oh my god, what is up? That thing just went crazy. Okay, let's close them all. Close whatever this thing is. I know I have a ridiculous amount of tabs open, computer. Let's close this. close that. Okay. We're getting, okay. Okay. Although possibly it was all the way, like, at the far side-ish. Like, if this is the Canadian Shield equivalent, like, generally speaking, it's possibly, let's see. Ooh. Coming in that way. If it's at this angle, right at this center point, then cross there. Let's see. Let's look at this again. I guess I closed it. Or did I? Oh my god. Poor computer. I need to just close every tab I have. So this is going up. We got this down here relative to this. That's what I'm kind of looking at. Those things. So like this is coming across here to here above this. Through the center of this whole thing. So if we look at it similarly through like maybe the center here even, it's above those features. Like here, I guess. Going in here-ish. It's above those. It's got all the features. It's got all those features. It's even got, here's that thing going on. There's islands over here. Islands over here. Let's see. If this is the Mariana Trench, I know there's islands found in Wyoming. There's islands found in this region that were there, like, anciently. Let's look at the geological map, North America. Maybe. Yeah, 250 by 250. Maybe. Whoa. That looks crazy. Looks like a dinosaur. Like a T-Rex or something. Ancient islands within North America. Islands. It's hard to say. It's just hard to say. I'm quickly finding them. Over the by the creation of the island arcs. Major creation episodes included these times. So like what the time we're talking about. So it looks like Grenville orogeny goes until 0.95 billion. Trying to think if that's the case. Which created the like when the pause was. It's hard to find when the pause was because essentially like things are happening and then it kind of pauses, and then things are happening and then it kind of pauses, and then things are happening And it looks like all this time is passing continuously, but there's actually really just like the pause is the time, and then there's these like moments of upheaval that are rapid and catastrophic, that are rapid compared to the pause amount of actual time, but in perception it looks like the opposite. Okay, so thinking though, going back to what we were just talking about, Grenville orogeny is like here. So since this thing's going on here, maybe it was like pushing current into a similar structure to over here, because essentially South America had the current that's flowing down this way like a flame, pushing into South America along, starting here, but then going down along the coastline and getting caught in these little nooks, and then drilling into this location for a while, and then just getting caught along the way and essentially fading out from influencing it like that. But it was doing it over here, and essentially in so doing pushing up the Andes. So it's possible that this thing participated in the upheaval of the Grenville orogeny. I don't think it really points at it sufficiently, like particularly over here, maybe over here, and then down along here it could be perceivable as influencing those regions, but over here maybe it had to move along the way. Some motion in the process, I guess, where it wasn't just pointing where it is now, but that's just where it ended up pointing and where the process was done. And was pushing into some other, like, equivalent continent, like South America versus North America, or versus, like, basically like this. There was a swirl here, pushing in here, and then pushing down into this way as a gap opened and it moved away. So like there's continents around this swirl that are not directly adjacent anymore, but there was like a chunk of this, chunk here, chunk, basically different chunks with a gap where current was flowing and swirling and inducing just intense pressures against the boundary of the broken chunk of what was, I guess, like connected to Africa and eastern United States, where the Grenville orogeny was like backstopped by, I guess. I don't know if we say Africa was connected then. Probably not, based on what I'm looking at. South America. According to this, I believe, if I'm interpreting it right, it's like this chunk here was up there at some point, relatively, and was part of there, adjacent to when the Grenville orogeny was happening. Way back. Way back. Way back, dudes. Okay, I didn't really expect a lot of that stuff. I didn't expect almost any of that stuff, really. That's pretty incredible. Wonder if there's more parallels. Like maybe this shape overall to to this. Also the dragon, like there would be a dragon potentially somewhere. I was thinking maybe something like chunks like this coupled together, but it's hard to say. Like right here, there, and maybe up there again. Up through here, down that way, I don't know. That'd be so cool if there was one. Where did I say? Like maybe that was from it. That doesn't really make sense though. Whoa. Just looking around. Little elf head or something. It'd be so cool if there was a dragon over there. Okay, I gotta save my computer soon. It's like, dude, I thought we went through this. Oh no, is that all we're gonna get? These don't even have it. Whatever they did, I'm not a fan. At least we can still see Dwarka. And the possible city next to it. Or what is happening here? I don't know why I want to be covered if if that's roads. What am I doing? I'm just looking at this now. That right there. Like what? I guess it could be maybe this data is from a different source. That's maybe Pakistan. Like Pakistani data. But like even so, shouldn't it be up here then? Like they just used different equipment, so it did that, but like it's not everywhere. It just really, I mean, it has these little circles. That kind of suggests not, although, what? It really does look like a route that they might have taken to measure. It's still a little odd that it's so concentrated over here. It's dispersed over here. Like getting more and more and more dispersed. in waves away from the center, pointing almost like a chakra at the actual. Okay then. I'll be back. See you guys later. Thanks for hanging out. It was a pleasure. Always a good time. I know I'm insane. Pardon me. See ya.